turning toward Ethan and Mia. He raised a hand, pointing at them. "New blood," he rasped. "The loop demands sacrifice." The others echoed the chant. "Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice." They ran. Through the fog, through the endless looping roads, time warped around them. They Creechy. All bleeding together in a kaleidoscope of madness. Inside another house, they barricaded the door with an armoire. Mia began scratching at her arms, convinced something was crawling under her skin. Ethan tried to console her, but he was unraveling too. The whispers were louder now. They came from the walls, the floors, inside their own minds. They found a map carved into one of the houses, an old villager's desperate attempt to understand the pattern of the loop. At the center of the map, the root house. "We have to go there," Ethan said. "It's where the ritual started. Maybe it's the only way to break the loop." Mia was barely listening. Her eyes were fixed on something outside the window. A child, standing in the fog, mouth open, but no sound, its face melting, sagging, like wax near flame. It pointed at the compass. The root house stood at the edge of the village, a mansion swallowed by moss and time. The front door opened as they approached, as if expecting them. Inside, candles flickered despite the absence of wind. The walls were lined with portraits, people with eyes scratched out. In the basement, they found the altar, and a figure standing behind it. Not dead, not alive. It was Thomas Granger, or what remained of him. His body was mummified, skin like parchment, yet his eyes followed them. "You brought the compass," he said. His voice was like wind through dead leaves. "You've already begun the ending." "What is this place?" Ethan demanded. Granger's grin revealed cracked teeth. "This is the consequence of ambition. We wanted eternal life, and got eternal decay." He raised a skeletal finger. "Only blood breaks the cycle. One must willingly stay, become part of the loop." Mia stepped forward. "There has to be another way." "There is not. The loop feeds on fear, on sacrifice. Leave, and it will find others." Granger began to chant. The walls pulsed. Ethan clutched the compass, and it burned his skin. Then, a voice in his head, clear, commanding. "Break it, or become it." He looked at Mia. She nodded. He hurled the compass onto the altar. The light exploded. As the house shook and the shadows screamed, Ethan turned to Mia. "If we ever get out of this, we need to tell people, warn them, get this story out there." Mia's voice shook. "They won't believe us." "Then let them see it." He pulled out his phone, recording the chaos, the symbols, the melting faces on the wall, and he whispered to the camera, "If you're watching this, subscribe, share it, make this known. Someone else might wander in here someday, and they won't be as lucky as us." The morning sun never rose in the village again. Elena opened her eyes to the same pale sky and the same static, dead air pressing against the cracked windows. But something had shifted. The house didn't creak like before. It groaned, like a beast waking up. Jude was already awake, standing at the edge of the field, behind the manor, staring at the withered orchard. His hands trembled as he held the broken pocket watch. The time hadn't moved. Still 3:12 a.m., just like every time before. "Elena," he whispered when she approached. "I saw something last night, in the mirror." "You were sleepwalking again?" He shook his head. "Number it was real. I saw myself, but older, broken, begging me not to stay." That wasn't the strangest part. The reflection had mouthed two words that chilled him. Don't dig. Elena tried to steady him. This place is messing with us. It's just trauma and lack of sleep. A thunderous crack echoed through the woods. The same woods that once led them in were now dense, pulsing, and unending. They hadn't seen the car since yesterday. No way out. The village was folding in on itself, but Elena was drawn to the cellar, the place the children's voices seemed to echo from every night. That evening she finally unlocked it. Down the stone steps lay a wooden door, rotting and wrapped in iron chains. A symbol had been carved into it, one Jude recognized from the leather book, a triangle encasing a bleeding eye. They broke the chains with tools from the shed. As the door creaked open, a foul wind burst out, carrying whispers and the scent of burnt flesh. Inside, a chamber. Dust-covered skeletons circled a stone slab, upon which sat a mirror. Not shattered, not aged, but pristine. On the frame, the same carvings, and in the mirror, they saw themselves, but not as they were. Their reflections were gaunt, eyes sunken, skin stretched tight over bones. But worse, they were smiling, slowly, deliberately. Then the whispers began. You've come full circle. The mirror pulsed. It wasn't just glass. It was the cursed object that bound this place to the time loop. It showed not just reflections, but timelines, lives lived and lost, over and over. Suddenly, Elena screamed. Her reflection was reaching out, hands pressing against the inside of the mirror, and then fingers began to come through. They backed away, but the cellar door slammed shut. The slab began to glow, and the skeletons around it started to twitch. The cult wasn't just historic, it was preserved, waiting. Their rituals hadn't ended, they'd just been paused. And the loop was the prison they created, for anyone foolish enough to return. They had no choice but to run, back through the collapsing cellar, through the crumbling walls of the manor. But the house was changing. Hallways twisted, rooms moved, paintings bled. They stumbled into the nursery again, but this time it wasn't empty. Children stood in a circle, whispering Latin phrases. Their faces were decayed, eyes black pits. They turned in unison. You shouldn't have come back. A door opened on its own, and Elena recognized it, the old church on the village map. Inside, rows of wooden pews led to an altar with a familiar symbol carved into its stone. The eye, the triangle. Beneath it, the body of the priest who disappeared in the 1960s, still robed, still clutching the same leather book Jude had found days ago. They lit the final candle, and then it began again. A deep bell tolled outside, the same sound from their first night. Time loop reset. Only this time, Jude held on to his memories. I know what we have to do. Each loop showed them more. They started experimenting. On the fourth reset, they learned the mirror was the anchor. On the 7th, they realized they had to trick the cult. On the 12th, Elena died. But in the 13th, she came back. Time had no rules anymore. Eventually, on the 17th loop, they figured it out. The ritual was designed to keep one sacrifice alive forever, trapped in the village, feeding the cult's immortality. That sacrifice had been Elena all along, and the only way to end it was to reverse the spell. They returned to the cellar, carrying the leather book, the priest's rosary, and the ancient dagger found beneath the altar. Jude began reading the counter-ritual aloud. The mirror cracked. The skeletons began to scream. Elena, pale and shaking, placed her hand on the glass and whispered her own name. Her reflection screamed in return and shattered into black smoke. The ground shook. The manor screamed. Outside, the sky lit with fire. The woods burned in reverse. The cult, frozen in time, turned to ash. The time loop collapsed inward, and the house fell silent. Jude woke up in his own bed, in Brooklyn. It was morning. A knock at the door startled him. It was Elena, alive, real. She didn't remember a thing. But as she stepped in, the mirror above his fireplace caught his attention. For a moment, he could swear his reflection smiled. A little too long.